Hi everyone, another fun-filled, action-packed edition of Weather for Weather Geeks on this Thursday evening. First day of autumn today, officially arriving at 10:21 this morning, and it was a toasty one. Our forecast was 86 today. We actually had 85 for an afternoon high, so we were pretty close, only 1 degree off. So our accuracy streak starts again after a miss yesterday. And for the calendar year 2016, we're at 80% accuracy for those next day temperatures. All right, I posted this on social media, talked about it on 21 News at 6. A lot of times on the equinox, you think, oh, it's exactly 12 hours of daylight, 12 hours of darkness. In actuality, it doesn't really work out that way for a couple of reasons. One, our latitude. Now, on the equator, it's awfully close to 12 and 12. But here at about 40 degrees north, there is a little bit of a lag. But more importantly, it has to do with the way we define sunrise and sunset. Now, it would be true that we'd be pretty much at exactly 12 hours if we measured sunrise and sunset by when the center of the sun's disk was at the horizon. But that's not what we do with sunrise and sunset. Sunrise, defined as when the top of the sun's disk hits the horizon, not the middle, but the top. And then sunset, defined as not when the bottom of the disk hits the horizon, not when the middle of it is, but when the top of the sun's disk dips below the horizon. Since this process actually adds some time to the daylight rather than the nighttime, because of the way we measure this, there is a few days worth of a lag. We'll hit about 12 hours of daylight, 12 hours of darkness, I believe on Sunday. But this is the reason why it's not 12 and 12 today. The day is still a little bit longer than the night for a few more days. All right, on the list of warmest Septembers on record here in Youngstown, we're still in third place at 69.1 for the average temperature, combining the highs and the lows. We're about 1.5 degrees shy of the all-time record of 1931. Now, it's starting to look to me like we will not get to the top because of some cooler nights coming up, particularly, and some somewhat cooler days towards the end of next week. So we'll be in the top 5. But probably not the warmest September on record here in 2016. All right, in case you missed this last night, real quickly, fall outlook, expecting a general continuation of the 2016 pattern. We've only had one below average month. That was back in April. So I'm expecting it to be another milder than average period for the next few months. Rainfall, this is a little harder to say, but there's a chance that we're slightly below average in terms of the precipitation for the next few months. Might be close to average, might be a little below, but it doesn't look like a wet fall right now to me. Now, because of the relative dryness over the last few months, the foliage could be somewhat duller than average, if you will. That's another thing that's kind of hard to predict, lower confidence, but it, of course, has been fairly dry for the last several months. Well, speaking of foliage, none to report here. Now, okay, here and there are a few trees, some maple trees particularly, who they're trying to show a little hint of color, but throughout our region, we're not expecting much in the way of fall color to show up for at least another week to 10 days. Typically, our peak is about the third week of October in eastern Ohio, western PA, somewhere between roughly October 19th to the 29th, kind of that 10-day period right there, just before Halloween. It's typically when we see our peak color. The colors peak a little earlier, where the terrain is higher out to our east of Pittsburgh, and then once you're up into the hills of northern PA, up into the southern tier of New York, and once you're up into New England, up into the Adirondacks and the Tug Hill Plateau, and up into the Green and White Mountains, they see their peak as early as late September a lot of years. So it has a lot to do with elevation. It has to do with latitude, and how often you see chilly temperatures as we get into the fall season. And, of course, those chillier air masses invade northern areas with a little more frequency than this far to the south. So, again, our peak, as usual, should be third week of October. Across the nation this evening, most of the unsettled weather is in the Rockies, for a change, and also still plaguing parts of the Carolinas and Virginia, some wet weather down there. Things are quiet here at home. We'll have a quiet night tonight, and tomorrow looks like another beautiful day. It's going to be warm. We'll get into the lower 80s. This cold front then pushes in tomorrow night, probably nothing more than a stray, and I mean 5 to 10% chance of a sprinkle tomorrow night. No big deal. So we head into the weekend. This is a cooler Canadian air mass, but it's not a cold one. Temperatures this weekend will be above average still, just cooler than the work week. Sunday looks like an absolutely beautiful September day. High of about, what do we have, 73 on Sunday, with a good deal of sun. And it looks like some warmer air is going to try to make inroads as we go into the first half of next week. Boy, speaking of next week, remains a very challenging forecast. I'll show you why in just a second, but did want to point out that while we have no threat of frost or freeze here, check out Sunday morning, turning chilly in interior New England. Now, we're not showing any cities that are in here, but in and around Saranac Lake and upstate New York, there could be some places that get down to 29, 30 degrees Saturday night, Sunday morning. And even as far south as Scranton, PA, and State College, PA, and up towards Bradford, upper 30s to around 40 by Sunday morning. So I think we'll bottom out in the middle and upper 40s Saturday night, Sunday morning here locally. All right, next week remains a tough forecast. Showing you the upper level pattern here. Oh, this looks like a mess, but I'll kind of sort this out for you. As you can see, between the GFS and the European models in the orange and blue colors here, we're in pretty good agreement through Sunday. The features are all kind of lined up here. You got a ridge popping up across the Ohio Valley, trough digging into the northern plains. And then the models sort of wildly start diverging towards the middle of next week. Here's Monday. The European model in the blue is much more progressive now with this upper low, pushing it through southeastern Canada already by Monday night. If that were to be right, that would suggest that a cold front will roll through our area early in the week, say Monday night into Tuesday morning. And that would imply pretty cool weather settling in for midweek. The GFS model in the orange is much, much slower with the upper level low, keeping the surface cold front probably back here by Monday night, Tuesday morning, keeping us on the warm side. And then as we go through time, again, the models are just way different here. By the end of the week, the GFS has this cutoff low parked across the Appalachians. The European model pushes the upper low away and suggests that we start warming up again towards the end of the week. The GFS suggests late in the week is cool and maybe damp under that upper low. So we got our work cut out for us with the forecast. One thing we've done is, these are two what we call operational models. When you have a lot of uncertainty, you look at what we call the ensemble models, and I'll get into a little deep dive on that at some later time. But anyway, we kind of rely on those to kind of sort out the differences in the operational models. And that being said, what we've done next week is kind of taken a middle-of-the-road approach. Here's the next 10 days versus average. As you can see, we probably do cool off next week. Probably not as fast as the European or as slow as the GFS, but we get within shouting distance of average towards the end of the week, which is in the upper 60s. And then it still looks like as we head into October, next weekend, we start warming up again. The details are still fuzzy as to the exact temperatures next week. Our 7-day forecast features a lot of highs in the 70s next week. Now, could we be off by 5 or 7 degrees on a day or two? That's possible because of the model differences, but hopefully we'll get more confidence as we get closer. The bottom line is not a particularly active pattern over the next several days, but there will be some temperature volatility, it looks like, during this final week of September. Thanks for watching tonight's Weather Geeks. See you tonight on 21 News 11. Have a great Thursday night.